The pounding music of the downtown Chicago club throbbed like a heartbeat, lights flashing as the crowd danced and laughed. Lila Jacobs swirled her glass of champagne, her nerves masked behind a dazzling smile as her friends celebrated a promotion she hadn't cared to mention at home. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She didn't need to look to know it was Adam, her husband, the man who had given her everything, a beautiful life, a stable home, and unwavering love. But somehow, she felt like a ghost in her own life. "Lila, come on," her best friend Tara shouted over the music, pulling her toward the dance floor. Lila hesitated before downing the rest of her drink and joining the chaos. In another corner of the club, a familiar face watched her from the VIP section. Ryan Monroe, a longtime friend of Adam's who worked with him at the same finance firm. His eyes followed Lila as she danced, the glow of the strobe lights accentuating his smirk. Ryan had always been charming and reckless, someone who reveled in taking risks. When Lila stumbled toward the bar for a refill, Ryan appeared beside her, his presence magnetic and dangerous. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, flashing a smile. Lila's pulse quickened. "I could say the same." He leaned in, his voice low. "You look like someone who's looking for an escape." Lila's breath caught. She should have walked away. But instead, she found herself whispering, "Maybe I am." Their eyes met, and in that moment, the ground shifted beneath her feet. That night blurred into a haze of secret conversations and fleeting touches. What started as one stolen moment turned into something deeper, something that lasted 3 years. Adam Jacobs was a patient man, always trusting, always hopeful. He often stayed late at the office to provide the life he thought they both wanted. But beneath his steady demeanor was a man deeply in love with his wife, yet oblivious to the cracks forming in their foundation. Each night when Lila returned home late, claiming client meetings or long errands, Adam would kiss her cheek, unaware of the truth lurking beneath the surface. Their lives intertwined with Ryan's more than they should have. He was a guest at their dinner parties, standing by Adam's side as a close friend while sharing lingering glances with Lila when no one was looking. At their anniversary dinner, Adam raised his glass, his voice steady but warm. "To the woman who makes every day better. I don't know what I'd do without you." Lila's eyes burned with guilt as she clinked glasses, catching a glimpse of Ryan in the corner of her eye. The weight of her secret pressed down like a stone. But secrets can only stay buried for so long. One afternoon, while reorganizing files in his home office, Adam stumbled upon a receipt tucked into one of Lila's handbags, a reservation for a luxury weekend resort. The date wasn't one they'd ever celebrated. His heart sank as he pieced together details that didn't add up. He logged into their shared calendar and noticed other discrepancies, long weekends and unexplained absences. A familiar chill ran down his spine. Adam sat at his desk, staring at the evidence. He knew he needed more than suspicion to confirm what he feared. Adam sat at his desk long after the sun had set, the glow of his computer screen casting a pale light across the room. The receipt lay beside his keyboard like a silent accusation. He pulled up a browser window and typed the name of the resort. The confirmation dates matched perfectly with the weekends Lila had claimed she was away for business. The tight knot in his chest twisted harder. The next morning, Adam went about his routine, though everything felt surreal. He poured Lila's coffee just the way she liked it, 2 sugars and a splash of cream, and watched as she walked into the kitchen, still groggy. "Morning," Lila murmured as she kissed his cheek. Adam forced a smile. "Morning." He watched her sip her coffee, studying her as though seeing her for the first time. Was there always that slight hesitation in her gaze? That distant look when she thought he wasn't paying attention? "Big day at work?" he asked casually. Lila nodded, glancing at her phone. "Yeah, a couple of client meetings. I'll probably be home late." Adam's stomach twisted at the familiar excuse. He nodded, masking the storm brewing inside him. "Take care." Lila smiled before grabbing her bag and heading out the door. Adam knew he couldn't confront her without more proof. He needed certainty, not speculation. That afternoon, he made a difficult phone call. "Hi, this is Adam Jacobs," he said when the call connected. "I'd like to hire your firm for a private investigation." The detective's voice was professional and measured. "Of course, Mr. Jacobs. What do you need us to look into? Adam hesitated before speaking. I need you to follow my wife. The following week was torture. Adam pretended everything was normal while inside. His heart felt like it was breaking piece by piece. The detective sent him updates, photos of Lila at restaurants, walking hand in hand with Ryan Monroe, and even stepping out of the luxury resort together. Adam stared at the images on his phone late at night, alone in the dark. The truth felt like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It was real. On a Saturday morning, Adam sat across from Lila at their dining table, pancakes on their plates. Harper, their 6-year-old daughter, giggled as she poured syrup, blissfully unaware of the tension between her parents. Adam's voice was calm but sharp. Lila, we need to talk. Lila's smile faltered. About what? Adam's eyes locked onto hers. About you and Ryan. The room fell silent except for the clink of Harper's fork. Lila's face went pale. What are you talking about? Adam pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. The images stared back at her, undeniable and damning. Lila's hands trembled as she picked up the phone. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, Adam, I can explain. Adam's voice broke. No more lies, Lila. Harper's laughter faded as she sensed something was wrong. Mommy. Lila wiped her face and tried to compose herself. Sweetheart, why don't you go play in the living room for a little while? Harper hesitated but obeyed, leaving the room with a worried glance. Once she was gone, Adam stood, his frustration boiling over. 3 years, Lila. 3 years of betrayal, of making me look like a fool. Lila sobbed, burying her face in her hands. I never meant for it to go this far. I was lost, Adam. I felt invisible. Adam's fists clenched at his sides. So you turned to him? My friend? Lila nodded through her tears. It wasn't about him. It was about me. Adam shook his head in disbelief. That doesn't make it any better. That night, Lila slept in the guest room. Adam lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by memories of their life together. Moments that now felt hollow and tainted. The next morning, he made his decision. He wasn't going to walk away quietly. Adam sat at the edge of his bed, the morning light filtering through the curtains. His mind replayed the moment Lila's face crumbled as she stared at the evidence. He wanted to believe that the woman he loved wasn't capable of such a betrayal, but the proof was irrefutable. As he sipped his black coffee, his phone buzzed. It was a message from the private investigator. Ryan Monroe is scheduled for a dinner meeting tonight at Boucher's Grill. I'll be in place to observe. Adam's jaw tightened as he read the text. He didn't reply. Tonight wasn't about observation. It was about confrontation. Lila spent the day trying to hold herself together, but her nerves unraveled with every passing hour. She knew Adam had reached his breaking point, and the weight of her decisions was finally crushing her. Harper played with her dolls on the living room floor, oblivious to the storm brewing above her. Mommy, can we go to the park after lunch? Harper asked, her smile bright and hopeful. Lila forced herself to smile back. Of course, sweetheart. She had to hold on to the small moments of normalcy for Harper's sake. That evening, Adam pulled into the parking lot of Boucher's Grill, his hands trembling with adrenaline. He spotted Ryan through the restaurant's wide glass windows, seated at a corner booth, scrolling through his phone as if he had no care in the world. Adam walked through the entrance, the bell above the door chiming. The restaurant buzzed with quiet conversations and the clinking of silverware, but to Adam, everything blurred except for the man sitting at the table. Adam, Ryan greeted, surprised but cool. He stood up and extended a hand as if they were still friends. Adam didn't shake it. We need to talk. Ryan raised an eyebrow, gesturing for Adam to sit. All right. Adam sat down but leaned forward, his voice low and filled with barely contained fury. 3 years, Ryan. You looked me in the eye while you took everything from me. Ryan's smirk faltered. Adam, it's not that simple. Adam's fist slammed against the table, making the glasses rattle. Don't insult me. You betrayed me. A few patrons glanced their way, sensing the tension. Ryan leaned in, his tone suddenly serious. I never meant for you to find out like this. Adam's eyes burned. Oh, you thought I'd just live in ignorance forever? while you played house with my wife behind my back. Ryan exhaled, his bravado slipping. I didn't plan for any of this. Adam's voice hardened. You planned enough. He stood, towering over Ryan. Stay away from my family. Ryan nodded, for once without argument. Adam turned and left the restaurant, his heart pounding in his chest. When Adam got home, the house was quiet except for the faint hum of the television. Lila was sitting on the couch, hugging a pillow to her chest. She looked up as he entered, her face pale. Where were you? She asked softly. Taking care of things, Adam replied. Lila's eyes filled with tears. Is this the end? Adam stared at her, the love he once felt buried under layers of anger and pain. I don't know, but I can't pretend anymore. Lila's voice trembled. Please, Adam, we can still fix this. Adam shook his head slowly. How? How do I trust you after this? Lila broke down, sobbing into her hands. Harper's small footsteps echoed down the hallway, and she peeked around the corner. Mommy? Daddy? Harper's innocent voice sliced through the tension. Adam knelt down and opened his arms. Come here, baby. Harper ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. Adam held her tightly, closing his eyes against the tears that threatened to fall. Lila watched them, her heart breaking as she realized that no matter what happened between her and Adam, Harper would be caught in the middle. That night, Adam packed a small bag and moved to the guest room. The distance between them had never felt so vast. Lila lay awake in the dark, replaying every moment of the past 3 years. She thought about the nights she spent with Ryan and the guilt that always followed. She thought about Adam's unwavering kindness, his trust, the very things she destroyed. She whispered into the void, I'm sorry. But there was no one left to hear it. The following day, Adam contacted a lawyer. It was a quiet, calculated move, not driven by spite, but by the need to protect himself and Harper. Lila found the paperwork in a manila envelope on the dining table that evening. Her hands shook as she read the words, petition for divorce. Her legs gave out, and she sank into the chair. This was it, the end of everything. The morning after Lila found the divorce papers, the house was eerily silent. She sat at the dining table, her fingers tracing the edges of the envelope. The words petition for divorce felt like a death sentence. Harper's small footsteps broke the silence. Mommy, what's wrong? Lila forced a smile and pulled Harper into a hug. Nothing, sweetheart. Let's get you some breakfast. But even Harper could sense that something was changing. Adam stayed late at work that week, burying himself in projects to avoid the hollow ache in his chest. Every time he thought of Harper, his heart broke all over again. He knew he couldn't disappear from her life, even if his relationship with Lila was beyond repair. One evening, as he left the office, his lawyer called. The papers were filed today, the lawyer said. Adam nodded, even though the words felt like a final blow. Thank you. As he drove home, the weight of it all pressed down on him. He pulled over at a quiet park, stepping out to breathe in the cool night air. The stars above were indifferent to his pain, twinkling in the vast sky as if nothing had changed. Meanwhile, Lila called Ryan, her voice trembling. You need to stay away, Ryan. Don't come near me or my family again. Ryan's voice was calm but insistent. Lila, we need to talk. There's nothing left to say, she whispered. I lost everything because of this. Ryan hesitated. I didn't mean for it to end like this. Lila clenched her jaw. It's over. She ended the call and sat in silence, the guilt crushing her. She had thought Ryan's attention had filled a void, but all it had done was destroy everything she loved. Days passed, and the house became colder with every passing moment. Adam had moved into an apartment a few miles away, where he set up a small bedroom for Harper. Every time she visited, she brought life and laughter into the quiet space, but the bittersweetness lingered. One afternoon, Harper drew a picture of their family, her, Adam, and Lila holding hands under a bright sun. Adam's throat tightened as he looked at it. Is it still a family if we don't live together? Harper asked. Adam knelt down and hugged her tightly. A family is about love, sweetheart, and I'll always love you. Lila, on the other hand, spiraled further. She canceled her meetings, ignored her friends' calls, and spent most of her days in bed, replaying memories of the life she'd thrown away. Brianna, her closest friend, showed up unannounced one evening. "Lila, you can't keep doing this," Brianna said firmly. "You need to get up, for Harper's sake." Lila wiped her eyes. "I don't know how to fix this." Brianna sat beside her and took her hand. "You may not be able to fix your marriage, but you can still be a good mother." Lila nodded slowly. "You're right." That weekend, Lila took Harper to the park. She pushed her on the swings and helped her build sandcastles, trying to savor the simple moments. As they sat on a bench sharing ice cream, Harper looked up at her mother. "Will Daddy ever come home?" Lila's heart shattered. "I don't know, baby." Harper hugged Lila's arm, her small voice filled with innocence. "I just want us to be happy." Tears welled in Lila's eyes. "Me too." One evening, Adam received an email notification. His divorce would be finalized in 2 weeks. He stared at the screen, the finality of it all hitting him. Yet, there was no turning back. That same night, Ryan showed up uninvited at Lila's doorstep. "Ryan," Lila said, exasperated. "I told you. I just need to see you," Ryan interrupted. Lila stepped outside and closed the door behind her, lowering her voice. "You don't belong here. Harper's inside." Ryan's expression hardened. "So that's it? You're shutting me out completely?" "Yes," Lila whispered fiercely. "It's over." Ryan stepped closer, his face twisting with frustration. "I gave up everything for you." Lila's eyes burned with tears. "I never asked you to." Before Ryan could say another word, the porch light flickered on. Adam's car had pulled into the driveway. Adam stepped out, his face calm but resolute. "Is there a problem?" Ryan scoffed. "You're really playing the hero now?" Adam took a step forward, his voice even. "Leave. Now." Ryan glared at them both before turning and walking away into the night. Adam watched until Ryan disappeared, then turned to Lila. "You okay?" he asked. Lila nodded, though her hands were still trembling. "Thank you." Adam sighed. "I'm not here to fight you, Lila. I'm here for Harper." Lila's voice cracked. "I know." They stood in silence for a moment before Adam turned back to his car. "Take care of yourself," he said before closing the door. Lila watched him drive away, the sound of the engine fading into the distance. She stood on the porch alone, the night air cool against her skin. She had wanted so desperately to feel seen, to feel important, but now she felt like nothing at all. The final divorce papers arrived 2 weeks later, and Adam signed them with a steady hand. Lila sat at the kitchen table, staring at the same papers, her heart breaking as she wrote her name. With the stroke of a pen, their marriage ended. Lila sold the house a few months later. The memories were too heavy to bear. She moved into a smaller apartment closer to the city, determined to rebuild herself, piece by piece. Adam continued to focus on Harper, their shared custody arrangement becoming their new normal. He poured his energy into being the best father he could be, creating a new life centered on honesty and resilience. Ryan left town not long after, his career in shambles and his reputation irreparably damaged. No one knew where he went, and few cared. One autumn afternoon, Harper played soccer at a nearby field as Adam and Lila sat on opposite ends of the bleachers. Though they were apart, their shared pride in their daughter was undeniable. Harper scored the winning goal, and both of her parents cheered in unison. Harper beamed, running toward the sidelines with open arms. Lila caught Adam's eye and offered a small, sad smile. Adam nodded, acknowledging the unspoken truth between them. Though they had lost each other, they would never stop being Harper's parents. Winter's first snow blanketed the city in a quiet stillness, the streets of Chicago shimmering under the soft glow of streetlights. Lila watched the snow fall from the window of her small apartment, Harper's laughter echoing from the living room as she built a blanket fort. "Mom, come see," Harper called. Lila walked over and crouched by the fort, peeking inside. Harper beamed, her bright smile lighting up the room. Lila felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in months. For the first time in a long while, things felt peaceful. "Looks cozy," Lila said, ruffling Harper's hair. "Want to join?" Harper asked. Lila smiled. I'll get some hot chocolate first. Then we'll both crawl in. Harper giggled and began rearranging the pillows. Across town, Adam sat in his apartment, sorting through old photos he'd meant to put away months ago. One picture caught his eye, a candid shot of Harper laughing between him and Lila at the beach, their arms wrapped around her. He stared at it for a long time before finally tucking it away in a memory box. The pain was still there, but it no longer consumed him. Time didn't heal everything, but it dulled the sharp edges. Lila threw herself into rebuilding her life. She found a new job at a non-profit organization that focused on family outreach. It wasn't easy, but it gave her a sense of purpose. Her evenings with Harper became sacred. They had movie nights, baking adventures, and long talks about school, friends, and dreams. Adam, too, found a way forward. His weekends with Harper were filled with trips to the aquarium, snowball fights, and quiet nights reading bedtime stories. He joined a running group, made new friends, and started writing again, a hobby he'd long forgotten. One crisp Saturday morning, Harper had a soccer game. The stands were filled with cheering families wrapped in scarves and jackets. Lila and Adam sat a few rows apart, but their eyes met as Harper scored the first goal. Adam stood and clapped, pride etched across his face. Lila caught his eye and gave a small, genuine smile. He nodded in return, a silent acknowledgement of their shared joy. After the game, Harper ran to them with open arms. "Did you see? I scored." Lila knelt and hugged her. "You were amazing." Adam tousled Harper's hair. "That was the best goal I've ever seen." Harper looked between her parents. "Can we all go get pancakes?" Adam hesitated, glancing at Lila. Lila nodded. "That sounds perfect." The three of them sat at their favorite diner, sharing a booth like old times. Harper chattered happily about her game while Adam and Lila listened, their differences momentarily forgotten. For Harper's sake, they'd learned how to exist in each other's lives without bitterness. They weren't the family they once were, but they'd built something new, something based on love for their daughter and mutual respect. Ryan's name rarely crossed their minds anymore. His departure was a distant memory, a chapter they'd both chosen to leave behind. In his absence, Adam and Lila had reclaimed their dignity and their lives. Years passed, and Harper grew into a bright, resilient teenager. She excelled at school, joined the swim team, and brought home report cards filled with glowing remarks. One evening, after a school awards ceremony, Harper hugged both her parents at the same time. "Thanks for being here." Adam and Lila exchanged a glance filled with unspoken history and shared pride. "Always," Adam said. "Always," Lila echoed. That night, as Lila walked back to her car alone, she paused to take in the night sky. The stars twinkled like promises, and for the first time in years, she felt whole, not because of someone else, but because she'd finally found herself. Adam watched from afar before driving away, a quiet peace settling over him. He'd rebuilt his life, not as a man defined by betrayal, but as someone who'd learned how to forgive, not just others, but himself. Life moved forward, not as they'd once imagined, but in ways they never thought possible. The family they once were had been reshaped, scarred but strong. Though their love story had ended, their story as a family continued, imperfect, yet resilient. End of story.